Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Normandy in France, so my first French beer review in quite a long time actually, but also my very first Norman beer review. So for this one we're going to go to a small town called La Chapelle Saint-Ouen, which is quite near Rouen actually, and we're going to go to Ferme Brasserie la Chapelle, the Ferme Brasserie or Ferme Brewery of La Chapelle, and we're going to have a taste of one of the Northmaen beers, and this one is the Biére de Noel, which is a bière de gare, of course, a style that comes from the Pas de Calais region in the north of France. So it's quite a kind of big bready and yeasty beer, usually a bière de gare, but with a little bit more kind of boozy and caramel notes in it too. So this one should be a very nice one for us, and I'm quite looking forward to doing my very first beer review from Normandy. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very brief history of the brewery. It will only be a minute or two long, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, and I'll also put a link in there to my Facebook page, and also a link that will take you to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Ferme Brasserie la Chapelle and their Northmaen range. But anyway, to tell you about this brewery itself. So as I told you, this brewery is located in La Chapelle Saint-Ouen, which is in Normandy in France, and it's located about halfway between Gournay-en-Bray and Rouen. And I apologise if my French pronunciation isn't quite up to scratch. But this brewery was founded on the family farm by Frédéric Dominique Camus in 1997. And this brewery is actually quite interesting because they produce many of their own malts on site, so you're getting a truly kind of Norman beer if you like. But the water in the Normandy region is particularly nice for creating beer apparently. And the brewery have their own source of water which travels up through about 60 metres of limestone, so it's quite a nice minerally water that you'll get from this one. But the hops from the brewery are all brought in from the Alsace region in eastern France, and today the brewery are producing about 2,000 hectolitres of beer per year. And the brewery also do some distilling as well. They distill whisky on a very small scale of about 35 barrels per year as well. But the brewery is named Northmaen, or the beers are named Northmaen, for the Vikings basically, who invaded Normandy in around the 10th and 11th century, and when they invaded they actually brought their brewing techniques down from Scandinavia with them. So that's why this brewery like to name their beers Northmaen, even though the kind of official company name is Ferme Brasserie la Chapelle. So yeah, quite an interesting little brewery. There wasn't too much information available on them. I searched around for articles and things, but that was all the information I could find on them. But just to list the other beers you can get from these guys, this one of course is their Christmas seasonal one, but in their regular range they've got the Ambre, the Blanc beer, Blonde beer, Brune beer, Loose, which is some sort of red beer, and they also have an interesting one called Torboyo, which is a kind of, I think that was quite a nice dark one when I actually looked it up. But yeah, no, so that's the list of beers you can get from these guys, so I'm quite excited to try this one. And this was one I picked up from La Cave à Boulet in Paris, which is a really nice beer shop, and if you do find yourself in Paris, the guys in there speak English and are very willing to talk about French beer. So before we crack this open, let's actually have a little look at the artwork. So as you can see there, it's quite nicely presented. You can see Santa and his reindeer there, kind of quite crude, it's actually quite cool actually. It's a sort of a kiddies drawing there, so it looks very nice. It actually makes it quite distinctive, and I'm sure the other Northmaen beers were like that as well when I had a look at them. And there is the bottle cap on this one. I'm not sure what that's meant to be. It looks a bit like a kind of flying fish actually or something, but it's maybe just meant to be a kind of N or something for Normandy. I'm not sure exactly what the bottle cap on this was meant to be, but as you can see, it tells you on the side, Biére de Noel, Biére de Gare, Ferme Brasserie la Chapelle. So yeah, it should be a very nice beer. So without further ado, let's crack this guy open. So as I told you, it's a Biére de Gare, and it comes in at 7.5%, and what we should expect from this guy is a nice kind of bready and yeasty character, but with a little bit of booziness too. So as you could see, there was a nice kind of smoky opening there. Give it a nice little bit of an aggressive pour just to get it into the glass, but it looks a very nice beer. So as you can see, there's actually a good little bit of sediment in this one. I maybe should have taken a bit more care when I was pouring it, but you can just see at the bottom of the glass there, the sediment's kind of grouped together, but it's a nice kind of dark orangey amber colour, almost, it's not quite coppery, but definitely a nice rich dark goldeny amber colour. There's a finger of about a kind of creamy coloured frothy white head. There's a few bumps to it as well, some bigger bubbles in there, but it looks really quite nice. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but a good little bit of smaller bubbles going up towards the bottom of the head in terms of carbonation, but there's a good bit of smaller sediment particles just floating around in the grass there. And that's one of the things, and one of the things you can actually get from these beers, Bière de Gars, is they do tend to sediment quite a lot. But yeah, so let's give this guy a wee smell. It actually smells quite nice. You can pick up the big kind of caramel and slightly boozy notes that you would expect from this beer, but it's got a nice big bready yeasty backbone to it, but a good caramel. There is a big boozy caramel and slightly biscuity character to this one, but you can pick up a little bit of a kind of nutmeggy sweetness to it as well, which is quite nice. There's a sort of peppery and an almost wheaty spice, but it definitely has a sort of nutty aroma to it. Nutty and woody character actually in there. And you can pick up, there's a definite real spice to this one. It has to be a little bit of nutmeg or some kind of peppery and wheaty spice coming out of it. It's quite interesting. I've never smelt a beer quite like that actually. It's almost as if it's a kind of earthy spice in a way, so maybe there's a little bit of earthy hop character in these Alsace hops that they're using. Alsace, of course, is over in eastern France, near the border to Germany. But there's a little bit of fruity note coming out this too. It's almost a little bit of a kind of figgy red fruit actually. It's quite an interesting note on this. But just as I always say with these beers, do give them a smell before you actually try them. You'll often get some quite interesting aromas, especially from a style that you're not going to try very often, such as a Bière de Gars. So this one has a nice big bready and yeasty component, which is what you would expect. There's a typical kind of slightly boozy caramel and biscuity note coming out of it, but there's a good bit of kind of peppery and wheaty spice, but there's also some interesting nutty and nutmeggy character in there too, and perhaps even a little bit of earthy hop and some figs as well. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this guy. This is the Biére de Noel from the Northmaen Biére range at Ferme Brasserie la Chapelle from La Chapelle at Saint-Ouen in France, near Rouen. Slange. Now that's really interesting actually. Big and bready as you would expect. But that nutty and woody flavour that you can pick up in the aroma really does mix in with it right from the start. Your tongue is blanketed with this kind of bready and slightly yeasty character, but then on top of that you've got this really interesting woody and kind of nutty spice that just builds up right on top of the tongue there. It becomes, you just get a little bit of dryness off it. It's almost as if it's a little bit cereally, but it's more of a woody kind of a nutmeggy feel that comes out of this one. It reminds me just a little bit of some of the Innocent Gun beers actually. Some of the darker ones like the stouts that have a caramel element to it. It's a little bit like that. But yeah, that really is quite interesting. Around the edge of the tongue, where you'd expect the hoppy components in the beer, it's just a very, very smooth character. There's a little bit of figginess just around the front, but it's very, very faint. It's almost a little bit more grassy in terms of the hop character actually. But yeah, at the very back of the tongue, the very back corners, you can pick up just a teeny bit of earthy hop character, but around the rest of the tongue it's mainly a very smooth and very mild, slightly grassy flavour. There is perhaps just a little bit, very, very, very small little bit of red fruit around the very front of the tongue there, but the most prominent component of this beer really is the kind of bready malts that are coming out, sort of bready and slightly nutmeggy and woody flavours on this. It's a very interesting beer. I've never quite tasted one like this. Yeah. That citrusy fruit actually, there is a citrusy element to it. It's more of a citrus than a figgy note you're getting around the front edge of the tongue, but the main focus of this beer really is the bread and yeasty malt base on there. Just on top of that bready and yeasty malt base, you're getting a sort of slightly cereally spicy character, if you like. But there's a mix of woody and nutty flavours right in the middle of your palate there. There is a wee bit of biscuity sweetness goes down the middle of your tongue. It's not really a caramel as you would pick up from the aroma. It's more of a biscuity sweetness that goes right down the middle of the tongue, and to either side of that you've got this slightly cereally and kind of woody, almost nutmeggy spice coming out on this beer. It's really quite nicely done and it's quite interesting, but a kind of grassy hop around the edge of the tongue for the most part. Just a teeny little bit of citrus just right behind the front of the tongue, maybe even a little bit of figgy flavour, but on the very back corners of your palate it is a quite earthy hop character. And into the aftertaste, it really is that kind of nutty, woody and slightly cereally spice that's the real lingering flavour of this one, and that kind of earthy hop character on the very back corners of the palate. Those are the flavours that really are lingering in this beer. So in terms of the other Biére de Gars I've had, I'm sure the other ones that I had were a little bit more boozy and things like that. You're not picking up much alcohol warmth from this one, if I'm honest. But I can see why. This would actually be a good winter beer, and that's when they used to brew these things in the Pas de Calais region, was winter, when you need something to warm you up a little bit, and it does have a good bit of body to it. So in terms of the mouthfeel with this one, I would say it's mid-bodied. It's got quite a smooth carbonation, but at the same time it does feel quite light. It is a little bit oily, and that really helps the kind of sweeter elements of the malt base in there, the kind of biscuity, caramelly element to it, but it's mainly dry actually, and that's the woody and cereal spice characters coming out. And there is a teeny bit of alcohol warmth, you just feel it down here, and at 7.5%, that is something that you would expect, but it's mainly a malt forward beer, and it's a little bit bitter and dry in the mouth. It's an interesting bitterness. It's a kind of cereally bitter character that's in this one. It's quite a dry, slightly spicy bitter character that's coming out of this. So overall, I'd say this is quite an interesting beer. It's been interesting to try. I think what must be one of my first Biére de Gars from France, and particularly my very first beer from Normandy has been quite interesting. So hopefully I can go back to the Northmaen Biére range from Ferme Brasserie la Chapelle and actually have a taste of some more of them, because this has been quite a nice one and quite an interesting one. So hopefully I can try the amber beer or the red beer or something like that quite soon. It's definitely an interesting one, and if you do find yourself in Paris, look out La Cave Boulet and see if you can pick this one up. It's definitely an interesting one, and the Biére de Gars is a very interesting style historically, because that's what a lot of these kind of farm workers and things in the north of France, and I think into Belgium a little bit, this is what they would have been drinking. So yeah, give this guy a try. It really has tested my palate, and I've quite enjoyed it. I'll need to try a few more French Biére de Gars from now on. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As I say, it's been very cool to do my first Normandy beer review and also my first French one in quite a little while, so I hope you've enjoyed it, and please let me know your own thoughts on the beer if you do happen to have tried it before. As always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and like my Facebook page that I've put the link for in the description, and I will catch you soon with my next beer reviews, and hopefully I can actually do some more French ones soon. But slàinte for now.